Thanks for starting your morning with BYU-Idaho Radio. These are your morning headlines for Thursday, the 29th of August, 2024. I'm Kalen Wills. Edson Fichter was an inspirational naturalist who dedicated his life to scientific research on biodiversity and conservation. After passing away in 1994, his legacy lives on through the Edson Fichter Nature Area.
It's a place that people can escape for fishing, bike riding, walking their dogs, wildlife watching. There's just a lot to do there in this 40-acre parcel of open space.
That was Jennifer Jackson from Idaho Fish and Game. She explains how the upcoming Edson Fichter Nature Talks started.
Friends of Edson Fichter, Jane and Don Struble, had this great idea of doing outdoor nature presentations, and people were really excited about it, and we started it about 4 years ago. Jackson promises the presentations will keep you engaged. These are outdoor presentations. You're not going to have to be, bored by PowerPoints or slideshows. It's a discussion we have. Oftentimes our presenters have materials related to their talks, items that they can pass around for people to look at. It's a very informal discussion. Folks can bring their chairs, blankets to sit out on the grassy amphitheater. The talks begin on September 4th at 6 p.m., starting with a presentation about the bats of the Edson Fichter Nature Area. And there's even an opportunity to join those biologists on an acoustic walking tour that evening, where we can actually hear bat echolocations and try to figure out what species are flying overhead in real time, which should be a lot of fun. On September 11th, we'll hear about terrestrial invertebrates from Josh Granath from Idaho State University. And then on September 18th, there's a tracks and scats presentation later on in September by another Fish and Game employee. The series will wind up on the 25th of September with presentations about the night sky with amateur astronomers from the local area. For more information about the Edson Fichter Nature Talk series, visit the Idaho Fish and Game website at idfg.idaho.gov. For BYU-Idaho Radio, I'm Kalen Wills. Wildlife agencies are trying to capture and relocate the first pack of wolves that formed under Colorado's ambitious Wolf Reintroduction Program. The move comes after the animals repeatedly attacked livestock and marks an early stumble in the first year of the voter-driven reintroduction. The bid to capture them goes against Colorado's wolf management plan that was adopted last year. 10 of the predators were reintroduced in December over objections from livestock groups. Proponents argued that the apex predators would re-establish an ecological balance in the area. Wolves were largely hunted out of the state by the 1940s. It's unclear where the wolves will be relocated. A BYU-Idaho professor has written a new spooky book for kids. Brandon Isle tells us about Once They See You, 13 Stories to Shiver and Shock.
And so one of the reasons I write for kids is because I'm trying to promote in them a habit of reading that can sustain them through the rest of their lives. And I write horror stories because that's what I've always been interested in, and I think that's really fun.
That's right. Author Josh Allen writes horror stories for kids. His target audience, middle school-aged kids who are 10, 11, 12 years old. He says up to that point, they've been fed a steady diet of happily ever afters, and he sees it as his mission to break that stereotype.
Maybe a healthier thing for them is not to continue to be fed a steady diet of happily ever afters, but to sometimes be told the truth. When a bad thing does happen to a kid in my stories, I often try to approach it with dark humor and a bit of irony, and it's still supposed to be fun, but it's starting to tell kids the truth about life a little bit more than the standard happily ever after story that they've been raised on again and again and again.
Alan's latest book is called Once They See You, 13 Stories to Shiver and Shock. I read this new book to some of my kids ages 8 to 17, and they loved it. Many of the stories build off of things we've all gone through or your middle school-aged kids are going through right now, like walking into class and realizing your classmates have grown and matured over the summer. The story is partially based on Alan's own experience in 6th grade.
I walked into middle school that first day and looked around, and I just remember everybody had changed in these really seemingly significant ways, and I was still just, me. And so that was very much the inspiration for that story, and I often think back to the insecurities that I had when I was in 6th grade, and I use those to inspire the stories that I write.
He realizes not all parents are on board having their kids read spooky stories like this, so he has a message.
I think it's really important to give kids freedom to explore the kind of stories that they are psychically drawn to. They know what they need, and we can trust the healthy, creative cravings of their own inner artists.
Once They See You, 13 Stories to Shiver and Shock is available now on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. For BYU-Idaho Radio, I'm Brandon Isle.
A big thank you for listening to BYU-Idaho Radio. These have been your morning headlines for Thursday, the 29th of August, 2024. You can catch more news and interviews on our podcast feed. Just follow BYU-Idaho Radio on your favorite podcast app, or ask Google, Alexa, or Siri to play BYU-Idaho Radio. Be informed, be inspired. BYU-Idaho Radio.